This is Commissioner O'Donnell. Do I have a good connection here?
You do, Commissioner. Can you hear us?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Great. Philip, can you hear me?
I
Maybe.
can. Can you hear me?
You can. Is the live stream link available on the commission's website yet?
It should be. Let me double check.
Okay.
Anywhere?
Anywhere. Thank you. Thank all of you. Great to see. Good turnout.
That's in my.
How true that is.
Yes, we had to.
Sorry for the delay. It should be posting, but it's not. Give me just a second.
Okay. While Philip works on our live stream link, I can give folks a direct address. The address I gave you before, just to add a little bit to it. It's a /stream, STREAM. Yep.
Well, that's He'll be 80 years old.
I'll pass the sheet around. It has our contact information and you can give us a call or take a picture of it with your phone. Here you go. Just pass it around the room. I'm going to read it off as well. This is a chance for everyone to take a picture. Thank you.
Pretty much. We gotta go.
That live stream work for you?
I don't know, I have to try to
Okay.
get it and try it.
Okay, the link is up on the front page now.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So, for anybody in the room or anybody who you want to text, you go to our main website, psc.mt.gov. You can click on the link and access the live stream of this entire session. Afterwards, the recording of this session will be available on the PSC's YouTube page, also available to my homepage. With that, I think we are ready to go.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon. This listening session of the Montana Public Service Commission is called to order. The purpose of this session is to receive public comments on the Montana Dakota Utilities request to increase rates for electric service, which has been assigned Commission docket number 2022.11.099. I'm Commissioner Randy Pinocci, Commissioner for District 1 of Montana Public Service Commission. For the record, the time is 5:35 p.m. The date is Thursday, June 15th, 2023, and we are conducting this listening session from City Hall in Miles City, Montana, and by Zoom. I will now ask the Commission's Chief Legal Counsel, Lucas Hamilton, to summarize the procedural history of MDU's request.
Thank you, Chairman Pinocci. Under Montana law, the Montana Public Service Commission has the authority to approve or deny changes in rates charged by public utilities. Montana law requires rates for utility services to be just and reasonable. Under U.S. Supreme Court precedent, rates must also be sufficient to provide an opportunity for public utilities to earn a reasonable return on their investment. In other words, rates may be unlawful if they are either too high or too low. On November 4th, 2022, MDU filed an application seeking approval of increased rates for electric service to its Montana customers. MDU's application alleges that existing rates are too low. In its application, MDU sought a rate increase which, if granted in its entirety, would raise an additional $10,499,415 in annual revenue. MDU's request was based on a rate of return on equity of 10.5%. MDU also requested interim rate relief in the amount of $1,716,219. On January 25th, 2023, the Commission issued Order 7876A, granting MDU's interim rate request for service rendered on or after February 1st, 2023. The interim rate is subject to refund with interest if the Commission later determines the rate is unjust or unreasonable. On March 15th, 2023, MDU modified its revenue proposal and requested an additional, requested authority to increase its rates by $11,553,670 instead of the original $10,499,415. The Montana Consumer Council and Denbury Onshore LLC intervened in this docket and opposed the magnitude of the rate increase requested by MDU, the manner in which MDU proposed to allocate the request among its customer classes, and the manner in which MDU proposed to set rates. The MCC, otherwise known as the Montana Consumer Council, initially recommended an overall rate increase of $4,729,691 based on an authorized return on equity of 9.1%. MCC later reduced its recommended rate increase to $3,556,380. Denbury recommended an overall rate increase of $3,781,920, also based on an authorized rate return on equity of 9.1%. On June 2nd, June 12th, which was just this Monday, MDU, MCC, and Denbury filed a stipulation and settlement agreement. In that settlement, the parties recommended that the Commission approve a $6.1 million rate increase based on a 9.65% return on equity. If approved, the proposed settlement would increase the average residential customers' rates by 9.1% relative to the rates that were in effect before February 1 of 2023. The Commission has not yet considered the proposed settlement. If the Commission rejects the party settlement, all parties have reserved the right to present evidence and argument in favor of their original positions. Mr. Chair, that concludes my summary of the history.
We are here today to listen to public comments. As a result, this meeting will not have questions and answer format. The Commission and its staff will not be commenting today or answering questions. If certain technical questions arise, I may defer to Commission's legal counsel. Please be mindful of your use of time so that others have adequate time to comment. Comments should be delivered professionally and respectfully. Commenters should please confine their remarks to the specific topic of the listening session, which relates to MDU rates for electric service as presented in its original application and in the party's proposed settlement agreement. The commission now invites members of the public to comment. Please remember to speak into the microphone, state and spell your name, and state where you are from. We do not need your physical address, just the town where you live. Please also identify any organization whose behalf you are speaking, if that is the case. We will begin with commenters in the
Mr.
room.
Chairman. Mr.
Yes.
Chairman,
Commissioner O'Donnell, yes.
I just wanted the record to note that I am participating by remote to this meeting. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner O'Donnell. Also, President Jim Brown is with us. Can you hear us okay, Jim?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll begin with commenters in the room. Are there any commenters in the room who'd like to go first? Do we have a microphone?
So, yeah, if I may, Mr. Chair, logistically, our microphone is in the middle of the room. I am told that it is very good and very sensitive, so you should not need to move anywhere to speak into the microphone. But Philip, President Brown, Commissioner O'Donnell, if you have any trouble hearing anyone, do let us know and we'll stop and reorient the room a little bit. So with that said, I believe we can speak from anywhere. Camera will also pick you up from wherever you are. And if you want to start in the corner of the room and just work our way around, that might be the most efficient.
Well, I got a gentleman. I want to see who goes first. The person they want to wait for certain times. Thank you, sir.
First off, my name is Chris Butch Grins. I'm a resident here for ever 75 years. There's a couple of things I'd like to point out. First, I'd like to thank the local MDU employees that you have here. They do an excellent job around town, period. There's no doubt about it. This 9.1 or 9.2 or whatever that you're asking for, if you're in business, I think I've been in business about half my life, well, make it 3/4 is better. You know, businesses don't pay taxes, businesses don't pay rate increases. The consumer gets it all. It's just a hidden tax on the consumer. If you have a business and something goes up 10%, you have to get that money out of the consumer, which is the same as residential area. So my complaint is out of all three of these, if you raise them up, the consumer or the residential people that live here will pay 27.4% increase, not 9.1. I mean, that's just the way things work. The other thing I did is I took all the cities and I took the population and multiplied it by the per capita income. And this was what was, I was under the understanding that MDU made 1.3 or 1.1 or 1.3 billion dollars in profit. I think it was 1.1 billion dollars in profit in the last 3 years. I added up everybody's income in this community. I'm not only in Mount City, but every city that's on your website, and that's about 50% of what everybody makes. And all these people, 50% of their total income. In other words, if you made a $50,000 a year, you send $25,000 for the profit ratio that you've had on this. I personally think that's outrageous that you want more than 5.1 or 1.1 or 1.5 billion dollars is not a trivial fund. I mean, and I really believe that if they're doing that well, I don't see why they need to lap on a whole bunch more onto us people here. And the other thing is, if you look at what a mill is worth in these communities on the east end of the state, it's ridiculously low compared to what it is on the other end of the state. So to try to lap us together I'll give you an example that Miles City's mill is probably, and I don't know if everybody here understands what a mill is worth. A mill for like a city, they take all the assessed values of everything in the city, they add it together, divide it by 1,000, and that's what your mill is worth. And then by law, you can only levy so many mills to your taxpayers to run your city government. And anything more than that, you have to go out for a levy and they have to vote it in if they need more money. So if you look at Miles City is like 9.1 $9,100. You go over to say Bozeman, it's $140-some-thousand a mill. And yet we have to run our community and provide the same services as those people over there. You know, and it's sad, but you know, houses over there sell 3 or 4 times more than what they do. Wages are up, you know, $4 or $5 more than they are here. So I really feel that, you know, Eastern Montana needs to be, and I don't know, do you have a commissioner for just this end of the state, or do you guys just kind of throw it all into one and make a decision on behalf of the entire state at one time? I don't know. I'd like to know if we have a commissioner that represents this end of the state, because, you know, come voting time, we know who to complain or get rid of or keep in that way. So that's all I have to say. Well, thank you.
Sir, can I get you to spell your name for the record?
DRENZ.
Thank you. And I am the Public Service Commissioner for this district. And in the back of the room, I have a book with every legislator in it and my business card stapled to the front of it, in case you'd like to have one of those. Who would like to go next? Yes, sir.
Yeah. I'm Harold Stanley Taylor. I live here in Miles City. And I just want to make several points. A rate increase of 14.7% occurred over 2 years, 2019, 2020. In 2023, MDU is requesting another rate increase of 9.2% or 9.1%. You've addressed a number of the other questions I had here, but is the PSC certain that a 9.2%, this is what relative to what you said earlier, and I'll refresh everybody on that. PSC must allow utilities an opportunity to earn just enough profit so that utility owners will have the incentive to provide adequate service to customers, no more, no less. It is this public interest protection that makes the PSC unique, and that's from your website. You did that earlier. So is the PSC certain that a 9.2% rate increase is necessary to allow MDU, Montana Dakota Utilities, an opportunity to earn just enough profit so that MDU owners will have the incentive to provide adequate service to customers? And finally, has a 4%, has a 4.6% increase been considered? Thank you very much. And do you want a copy of it?
If you're willing to, yeah, I'd be happy to take it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's go next. Okay.
I have 4 children out of 5 that I babysit for. I'm a fixed income, he's a fixed income. In order for us to survive, we have to live together and share expenses. I'm going to give a little background for me, so you know who I am and what I'm about. My name is Joylyn Main Wright, and I used to live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And in the mid 1990s, I, along with a bunch of people in the in the city of Milwaukee County, representing low-income families and families with children, single-parent families, We're fighting against then Governor Tommy Thompson's welfare reform law, which sent people who earned, who got, assistance checks to go and work for less than minimum wage at the time. Okay, let's move on to the other part. Back then, 10% of every dollar went to corporate welfare. 1% went to families with children. But they were the ones that they were attacking. Now let's jump forward this time. You got, the initial assessment was 19.2 and then dropped and dropped. Corporate welfare getting the lowest amount. Now you have a potential settlement, not even guaranteed that it's gonna go through or accepted. And you're saying that earlier, before the meeting started, that you have to do what is regulated by our representatives, our legislators. Okay, let's put that on the back burner for now. We're still getting, like this gentleman said, 27%. We're the ones gonna eat that 27%. How does a family of 5 children support their children, pay their bills, and put food on the table? We can barely do it ourselves, and we're sharing expenses in our adjusted living income. How can a family of a single parent support their children on what you're proposing? It's unreal. So corporate welfare is gonna get the lowest amount, regardless how you look at it. And they're already getting, what is it now? 13% corporate welfare? What is the family getting on the dollar? How is that fair? How is that fair to the children that need their parents to support them, whether they have a shelter? Most of them pay rent. Not a lot of them own their home. They have to pay their utilities, and then they have to think about getting their clothes for the kids, getting food on the table. How are they gonna do it when they're paying 27% for utilities? Where this is just my opinion, and it's just a figure that I'm gonna put up. Here we are. Here's the proposed, here's the cushion, and here's where you wanna go. So you got this extra cushion for all you millionaires who want this money coming, but you only need this much, but you wanna go here to mid-level from all the way up here from 19.2. And it's still taking from families like this, still taking from people on fixed income, disabled people, people on social security retirement. How is that fair? 27% increase on everything that we already pay, plus the inflation that we pay across the board. For rent, what is it now? What's the average? $1,500, $1,600 a month? How are they gonna pay their utilities? How can they do it? How much does the wage have to increase with inflation? And then how much more are our utilities go? You're not thinking about us, you're thinking about lining your pockets. Where's the representative from Rosendale's office? He's supposed to be here tonight. Huh, no show. Isn't that amazing? I'd like to talk to that person in the back of in the hallway and talk about him representing the people in this room and the people who can't be here, people who are listening in. Why aren't you telling the Public Service Commission, let's not do this to these people? We need representation. We need you to protect us. Matt Rosendale, you're listening in. You better protect your constituents. Or like this gentleman said, come election time, you know where you're gonna be going, right out that door. Thank you.
Ma'am, your last name spelled R-I-C-E.
No. MWRIGHT.
Who'd like to go next? Yes, sir.
My name is Bryce Kirk. I represent the Fort Peck Assiniboine and Sioux tribe on the council there. You know, once we heard about this increase that they wanted, doing a little numbers and stuff like that, they operate 471,000 people that they do. And just say take an elder, for instance, on a fixed income, and you sit there and take that and say their bill's $100, right? And you say everybody at the $471,000, 471,000 people that they serve, and that's a $9 increase per year. $1.2 million a month, $50 million a year. My job at the council, give me something that's justifiable. Tell me, why do they need it? Did they get infrastructure money? Did they get things that are gonna benefit their program, their business already? Also, from the understanding, their CEO alone made $5 million last year. Not only that, like their sister company, like one said, is already 1.2 billion. And you guys at the state of Montana are supposed to protect Montanans for Montana, have to protect us here, low income people, people on fixed incomes, people that are already struggling at that. The lady back there with 5 kids, I have 5 kids. And me getting paid $80,000 a year, it's still tough. It's still tough to sit there and still take care of 5 kids and then help other people. Even people on our reservation, people off the reservation, it don't matter, we're all Montanans. And it's your job as a state to not let somebody over in North Dakota dictate what goes on here in Montana. Because that's the biggest thing right there. And then I heard that, well, the 3 reasons for their thing is inflation. We're all dealing with it. Everybody in this room is dealing with inflation. You're dealing with inflation. The other one, oh, assets. My assets value went down. Well, I owned a business too, just like gentlemen and probably people in here. We have to take that hit with businesses. We don't go ask somebody to take the hit for us and pay for us when it comes to our business assets losing value. Another one that I heard is a coal plant down in South Dakota, trying to turn it into a natural gas plant. That there has nothing to do with Montana. We're not gonna, in Montana, no matter where we stay, whether it's the east or the west or in the central, shouldn't have to pay for something going on in South Dakota and North Dakota. It's our job right here as Montanans to stick up for the things that are in Montana. You took the oath to sit there and protect Montana and protect the people that serve Montana. Every one of us in here are Montanans, no matter where we're at, no matter what we do, no matter where we live. It's our job to protect first our elders and our families on low incomes, and every family and every business that work their butt off to sit there and be where they're at today and be there for their families and not let somebody fill their pockets and benefit them. Only them. Nobody in here sees that, but that increase, even 9%, is way too much. Because even with that, even if you went down to the 4%, that's still $4. That's still right around $500,000 a month. And you sit there and you take that at $6 million a year, that's still too much. Taken from Montana to go over to North Dakota. We need you guys to stand up for us, to stand up people on fixed incomes and families that are already struggling, and not let those guys line their pocket and do the best to protect Montana and keep Montana, Montana. Thank you. BRYCKIRK.
And
My name is Alice Menard. I'm from Terry, Montana. ALISONBARNARD. I've lived in I was born and raised in Alpine, Montana, Glasgow area. And then I moved to North Dakota. I've lived in Williston, I've lived in Botno, I've lived in Bowman, I've lived in Minot. And North Dakota, they have wind farms. They're just building a wind farm north of Miles City for Jordan. There would be 260 some wind farms. That's where their source of energy comes from, all the wind farms that are over there by Minot. And I've lived in pretty much since I was got divorced. I've been in Section 8, I've been on welfare, Medicaid, food stamps. I am on the gap because I can't pay my heating bill in the winter. I can't afford to heat my house. And in the summer, thank God I have heating assistance for the winter, but in the summer, I have to pay that because that's electric. And so I struggle. I have to ask my parents for money in the summer. And I'm on a fixed income because I'm on disability. I get $800 a month. I can't pay my satellite, so my parents help me out. If it wasn't for my parents, I wouldn't have a cell phone. And when they die, I'm screwed because my parents just bought the lot that I'm living on. So now I have to pay property tax. $800 a month. My property tax is $300 a year. There's no way in hell I'd be able to pay that and pay for it. Thank God I have food stamps, but I can't pay my cell phone bill, my satellite bill, my MDU I pay because of heating and cooling. I struggle daily and I can't do it. And they said that North Dakota agreed to 7%. Well, maybe we need to agree to that too. Because at 7%, maybe I could, there's no way I can. I mean, I don't run my AC in the summer. And I burn, my house is at like 70 degrees to 80 degrees in the summer. So I don't run my AC. I would love to, but I can't because then I have to pay my electric bill. That's all I have to say.
Speaking on behalf of Dawson Research Council, I just first want to start by saying, well, and I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but while you're doing your testimony, you know, people on here are back here on their phones, and I think that's indicative of the larger issue here is that people are struggling, and there's an out-of-state corporation that's benefiting New York investment banks. Their largest shareholders are getting paid. It's 85 years of running dividends, and the people who are struggling in Montana are ignored. So the first thing I want to talk about is the Sydney plant. The Lewis and Clark generating station in Sydney was shut down. I think last year there were multiple offers on the apparently multiple groups willing to buy the generating station, either refit it or run it. And MDU rejected the offers. They said that closing the coal plant down would save customers money. Well, where's that money, right? Why isn't it coming back to us? When has a utility ever given money back to a customer, let alone MDU? So where's that money? 3 years ago, they raised rates. They're doing it again now. I thought they were saving money, right? They say they're in the community to serve, but they're shutting down jobs in Eastern Montana. People wanted to keep that plant open, and MDU felt like it was in their financial favor, in the favor of an out-of-state corporation, in the favor of Wall Street billionaires to keep that plant closed. So I guess, you know, I think their motives are pretty obvious here. And I want to be clear, this isn't the MDU employees in our community. They do a great job of keeping our lights on and working hard. They pay rate increases too. It's the out-of-state executives, it's the CEO making $5 million a year. It's the Wall Street billionaires that are walking away, you know, dusting their hands off of a rate increase that's paid by us. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is I read their filing when they asked for this rate increase back in October. They told us that it was absolutely necessary for them to get 19.2% residential for them to be able to make a profit, or their allocated profit. Why all of a sudden can they make their profit with 9% now in this new settlement? What? How does that math work? So they tell us they need 19%, and then all of a sudden 9% is enough. I don't understand the math there. So it's almost as if this 9% figure is whatever the Consumer Council just decided to throw a dart at a map and say, hey, this is our number. It's almost as if it's made up, you know? And their annual report will tell you, written for investors, that they are making record revenues every year. So first they need 19%, now they need 9%, they're barely making it. It's all a joke. All they've been doing is cutting local workforces, contracting out the help, and then there's no plan. It just ends up being higher cost for ratepayers. So that's what I wanted to say.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Thank you.
They closed the one in City. What about the one in Full Strip that they closed 2 years ago? You know, I mean, if they would have kept the one in Full Strip and the one in City open, maybe our rates wouldn't have to be adjusted.
Who'd like to go next?
Okay. Thank you for being here. I hope you have really thick skin. I'm from ISFON. I'm from Fallon, Montana. I feel like any rate increase has a very dramatic effect on rural counties, hospitals and schools, middle and low income families and retired people. There will probably be people that have to leave these rural counties in favor of areas with higher wages. That affects services in my county. They can't budget even for road maintenance if they have decreased taxes. We have a lot of federal land in our county, so our tax base is pretty nil anyway. We're broke. Small businesses will have to pass their costs on to their customers. We all know that. They can only do that so many times before they start losing business to Walmart type stores. Lights and coolers are expenses to keep running for the little, are high expenses to keep running for the little guy. According to www.electricchoice.com /blog, on average, the majority of households across the United States spend between 2 and 3% on their annual income on electricity. I spend between 10 and 15% between running the stuff in the winter, and we heat with propane. But between running the furnace and stuff in the winter and watering the garden in the summer, it gets pretty high. And here's where I need you to have thick skin. It takes me 9 months to make what you make in 1 month. Those costs don't equate out. So I really hope you take that into consideration, because I think there are people here that are living on less than I am. One thing that struck me when I was looking at stuff for this is the rate per kilowatt hour in North Dakota is cheaper than the rate in Montana for MDU customers. North Dakota MDU in North Dakota requested a 13.2% increase. I don't understand why they could negotiate down to 7%. Why they would request a 19% increase in Montana. The math just doesn't add up for me. Thank you very much for being here. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman. Yes, did you ask that last witness what was the website? I couldn't get my pen fast enough that she cited.
Okay,
I can read it. With your indulgence,
Please do.
Mr. Chairman. Commissioner O'Donnell, it's www.electricchoice.com/blog.
Electricchoice.com.
and
Yes.
it's kind of a weird bracket. It's not a parenthesis, it's a.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm having a difficult time hearing. It's electricalchoice.com/what?
Just electricchoice.com, but if you'd like, Commissioner O'Donnell, I can send you an email with the direct address.
Wonderful.
All right.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Who would like to go next? Yes.
Down here. I'm gonna go back for a little bit of history before I get to today. My husband's not here, but he has written a statement also. I want to thank you, Commissioner Pinocci, for being here for a listening session on this rate increase. In the early 70s, my husband, I'm Deborah Hanson, Hanson. And my husband is Terry Hanson, Hanson, an attorney. He was the attorney for the Public Service Commission. Now, back in the 70s, we had 3 commissioners elected statewide. And they traveled to conduct a hearing wherever the application would be filed. So they were always on the road from Ekalaka to Eureka and every place in between. And so people had a chance to see them and talk with them, and they had a chance to really look at their communities and see what was going on. And they would also then take their transportation experts or the utility auditors, court reporters with them, they're experts. So the problem he has with this MDU rate increase is that MDU had a 15% increase over 2019 to 2020. And the ink is hardly dry when they're back asking for 19%. And he would like to know if you've even been able to determine what MDU did with this money, what that increase had on their bottom line before deciding whether another rate increase is even justified. And he doesn't think so. So the way MDU approaches its rate increase application is not unlike, he says, Chamberlain and the agreement he got at Munich in the 30s when Hitler got sealed in land and the Brits got nothing. Europe got nothing. Really strong, but there you are. And once again, I would like to know why we're now at 9.12% and North Dakota is at 7%. That's something is, I'm sorry you can't answer questions because that would be something we would like to know in these negotiations. We are, of course, appreciative that it's dropped 10%. I will tell you, most people on Social Security are getting a 2.4% increase after several years. And inflation has been, up to 8 and still at 4 or 5. So we are really not able to keep up with property taxes and increasing utility costs, which don't seem to be justified other than for those that are the investors and the officers. I think you're hearing a lot, you're seeing a lot. We would like to have communities that thrive, and we're just kind of getting back after the COVID, at least being able to put our industries out here, but we really ask you to scrutinize this, and hopefully you might even be able to get them to settle down to at least a 5 or 7%. Thank you.
Who'd like to go next? Okay.
My name is Joe Bill Howard, J-O, V as in Victor, I-L-H-A-U-E-R. And I empathize with everyone talking about the 27% proposed increase as it will be passed on to the consumer. But as a small business owner, in order for us to remain competitive, we can't just pass the cost on to the consumer because we'll be overshadowed by the big box stores, like you had said, or our competitors, the large corporations. So I strongly encourage you to not support this increase. Consider something much less and much more reasonable. There's like in this room, there's many people on fixed incomes that can't even afford a 5% increase. So I just ask that you consider that when you contemplate your decision.
Thank you. Who'd like to go next? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I read, number 5A, you printed this out. You made a record earnings of $103.5 million in 2021. And you're gonna double that in the next 2 years to 206. No. Big corporations, I look back on banks, CEOs, we're getting $2 million. For why? What did they do? They didn't do damn thing. They sit in their butts while the secretary did all their work for them, basically. And that same thing is going on here. It's wrong. We all know it. Why are we even getting power out of North Dakota? This is Montana. Why don't we get our power from Billings? I do not understand that. I've only lived here for 2 years, but I do not understand why we do not get our power from Billings, Montana, pumped into here versus North Dakota, and we have to rely on North Dakota and their BS policies. That don't make sense to me at all.
Could I get your?
He's been here, we've both been in eastern Montana for 2 years. We're from western Montana. He's lifelong, I've been there for 10 years. So
In western Montana, they have Northwestern Energy,
And the Valley.
which used to be Montana Power. Then they deregulated it, thanks to Fred Thomas. Well, when they did that, power in western Montana went crazy too.
Can I get your name, sir, and spell it,
Keith
please?
Wickham, Wickam.
Thank you. Who'd like to go next? Take the lady first, and we'll get you after.
My name is Elin Fretland Ahmadpour. And I'll try to make this brief. I might not look it, but I'm a senior citizen. I'm 59 years old. And I just have a few quick points to make. First, this issue that we have today of this proposed rate increase, this is not exclusive to this country only. It's happening in other places around the world. In Great Britain, people on fixed incomes, this past winter, I read about people having to shut their heat off. So they're gonna have to choose whether to eat or stay warm. And they're having to shut their heat off. I just want to speak for all of us in here, and it doesn't matter what our ages are, that this is not right. It's not right at all. And I want to give you a little quick lesson on the middle class. So the whole structure hierarchy, it's like a sandwich. You have the billionaire elite, and then you have the gazillionaires or millionaires, and then you have the middle class, and then you have the poor. The middle class, which is the middle of the sandwich, is what is holding up this economy.
Amen.
The middle class is being systematically destroyed. And our spending power is getting less and less and less. And I think it's a concern for everybody in here. Like the gentleman here representing his native tribe. I used to work for an early childhood intervention agency and was on the reservations and saw horrific poverty. And I just want to say this, like, as a senior citizen, I think about the people that are low income, all these people speaking here, people on low income, people on disability, the Native Americans, senior citizens, people, even the elderly on a fixed income. There are elderly people in which their sole source of income is Social Security. That's it. And these elderly people who have worked hard their whole lives, I mean, I don't know. I think some of them have to choose whether to eat or buy their meds or whatever. I'm not trying to like make an extreme like exaggeration or something. I'm just trying to say that it's not fair. When you're talking about that sandwich and the hierarchy that goes down, actually since the 1970s, the spending power of the middle class has been in decline, and it's only getting worse. A lot of the middle class are actually falling into poverty. And I just want to say that this is it's so grossly unfair, so horribly unfair, as all of us, no matter what our incomes are, we're all basically just living paycheck to paycheck and like one paycheck away from homelessness or whatever for like a lot of people, for the majority of the people. When you think about that sandwich and where the middle class is, when we don't have the spending power to buy goods and services, it affects the economy. And in my opinion, this is not inflation. We're actually in a recession, I believe. And all I would like to say is that for me, I'm 59 years old and wondering like what the future is going to be like. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of everyone in this room. My main concern is that we're going to be back here again in another 2 or 3 years having to fight another rate increase. And I certainly hope not. And I just want to say thank you for being here. That's all I have to say. Thank you. My first name is Elin. It's E-L-I-N. Ahmadpour, A-H-M-A-D-P-O-U-R.
Thank you. Who would like to go next?
One more thing to say. You know, all this stuff going on right now, MDU, car manufacturing, it started 3 years ago with a big introduction of freaking COVID. And everybody has jumped on the bandwagon, grocery stores, department stores, everything. everything is just skyrocketed 4 times the price. So you all want to get on the bandwagon, but we don't want on that wagon.
Sir, you were next.
My name is Rick Cron. I live here in Miles City. For a couple of references to closing power plants in Sydney, coal strip. Let me give you a little historical perspective. I used to live in Portland, Oregon. My father-in-law was an executive in Portland Federal Library. And in 1998, they decided to decommission the plant that he built, the coal-fired plant in Gordon. But they didn't shut that plant down for 19 years. Why? Because they spent that time finding alternative sources of energy so they could replace that before shutting the plant down. Now, I think one or two things may have happened here. I have to admit, I just moved back to Miles City. This is where I grew up, born and raised, moved away, came back. Either A, MDU decided they're going to take all those profits and shift them over to the private side of their organization and not use any of that money or very little of it to find alternative sources. Coal is dying. You have to understand that. Portland General Electric knew this in 1998. They knew it before that. They made the plan to get around that. And they started finding alternative sources. One of the things that I think might be happening with these rate increase proposals is MDU doesn't have a way of replacing coal. So what do they have to do? They have to shut the coal. What do they have to do? They have to go out on the open market. Power today is just like any commodity. It's traded on the open market. So if Portland General Electric has to go out and buy the power because they can't profitably run coal-fired plants, which they can't, they have to find that power somewhere else. When you buy it on the open market, it's a lot more expensive. PSC needs to hold this utility responsible. They're making a lot of money. They can put that money back into replacing, building replacement coal for power generation facilities. First name, Rick.
Who would like to go next? Somebody had their,
Hello.
yes, sir. You.
Hello, my name is Lawrence Hamilton. I'm on the Fort Peck Drive Council. You know, I come down here, Councilman Kirk also, and everybody has a valid point here, what they're saying. Probably gonna hear from everybody that everybody's on a fixed income. I come from a reservation here. I represent Fort Peck Drive, and we have a poverty rate that's really high. You know, people are hard to get jobs up there. People are closing their businesses down. People are on fixed incomes. You know, I pay $300 a month for MDU. You know, I think I make decent money, but that's still expensive. Our water bill's $120 a month up there. You know, you gotta think about our kids. They're getting taken away because parents can't pay their utilities or water bills or rent. So that affects them. Those services come in and start taking our kids away because these parents can't afford to pay stuff, even though they're on a fixed income also with the state. So when you start raising these up, what are they gonna do? You know, there's gonna be more kids, more parents without utilities, without water. And the state will probably come in, VA will come in, start taking kids, more kids from the tribes. You know, that ain't right. You know, if you guys start raising rates and agree with MDU what they want, you know, they went high because that's what they wanted, 9%. You guys went for it. You know, you guys should do anything for another 5 years. You know, they took a big jump up 3 years ago. It hurt everybody in Montana. You know, it's gonna hurt the kids now. It's gonna hurt families that are on fixed incomes. That's probably gonna be on your guys' head if you agree to what MDU wants. You know, we're all Montanans, like Councilman Kirk said, protect us from North Dakota. You know, they're a big oil state over there. They got money, we don't. You know, so that's all I got. I hope you help us, help the children, help the families that really do need it. Thank you.
They produce oil, they ship it overseas, and the rest of the United States buys it back. I mean, that's what I mean, why can't we just leave up the oil that we produce in North Dakota, Montana, over by Sydney and Wolf Point and Baker? We keep it here and we use it for ourselves instead of shipping it overseas and then buying it.
And I can add to that, my brother-in-law worked in Sydney in the big oil boom.
back in the nineties. Then there was enough oil there to run the whole cotton picking United States for 200 years. They wouldn't ship it out. Another thing he said about coal, there's no money in it. Well, there probably isn't, but is there money spent stupidly on 1.1, I just read it today, $1.1 billion per wind generator. That makes a lot of damn sense. Thank you.
My name is Mary Catherine Dunphy. That's, the last name is spelled D-U-N-P-H-Y. I've lived in Miles City since 1995. I understand that this is the second rate increase for MDU in the last 3 years. The previous rate increase was 15%. And if we get this new 9% increase, that's for a total of 24%. Although my math may not be totally right, it may be even more. I don't know anybody in this community who's had a raise of 24% in 3 years. I wish that the public service commissioners would Google the demographic information of each city and town in eastern Montana and find out what the average per capita income is for each person in those communities and the average median income. Eastern Montana is not like the west side of the state.
No.
We are the poor relation of Montana. We actually like being here because we're the kind of people that work hard, play hard. But we're not, we don't need corporate jets and we don't need, 2 and 3 homes to be happy in life. Most of us just want to be, warm in the winter and relatively cool in the summertime. But, for example, Miles City has 8,500 people, maybe it's slightly more. The median income in Miles City is like $31,000 a year. Sorry, but the per capita income is $31,000 a year. The median income is $50,000 a year. So when you live on that kind of money, think about this when you do a budget, which we all have to do, right? So what does the budget include? Food, insurance, property taxes, medical expenses, mortgage or rent, car payments, and car insurance, gas, clothes, and school expenses if you have children. So and with inflation, we're being hit from multiple directions financially. And other people here have said how hard it is for people to make ends meet. It used to be you could live simply and make ends meet in eastern Montana. I've talked to people who are farmers in the Glendive area. It turns out, I didn't know this. I'm not a cowgirl or really a rancher or farmer. But it turns out that those pivots for irrigation use electricity. That's going to cause food expenses to go up and the expenses of running a farm. And it all has to balance so that it comes out economically so that people can make a profit and still stay in business. I don't think MDU is having a problem staying in business with your 1.2 billion in profits in the last 4 years for MDU resources. And I'm not a communist. I like capitalism. I like profits, but I don't like predatory profits. And I feel what's going on here is predatory profits. And by the way, what is this about going for 19.2% initially for residential? Why did the residential people have to take the big hit initially in your proposal? And yet, let the businesses get by with less. Walmart got, the big businesses like Walmart got 12.1% under the first proposal. Walmart with their billions in profits. You know, again, I'm not against profits, but I am against predatory profits. And when you make it impossible for people, average people, to earn a living and live, and then not have to go to bed at night worrying if they're gonna be sleeping in the car next year, you know, because expenses have gotten too much, then something's really wrong. We are at the mercy of this monopoly utility. We don't have an opportunity to go anywhere else. We're stuck. Although by the way, folks, did you know, because of this, I've actually learned more about utilities in the last 6 months than I ever wanted to, but there's such a thing as a public utility. There are people that live in this country that have a public utility, and they don't have to worry about, you know, a corporate CEO like MDU and the executives worrying about making big profits for the shareholders. So they can just run the utility and, you know, and at a reasonable rate for everybody, and everybody is happy. And we do not have that luxury, and we are prisoners, and one might say political prisoners, of economic political prisoners of MDU. And it is not fair. And I encourage you to go to other communities in eastern Montana and talk to the people there and listen to what they have to say. Because I've talked to many people trying to get them to come to this meeting tonight on Main Street, businesses, and you know, they've got children, they've got this, by the way, this is during dinner hour when people are having their evening meals. You know, more people would probably show up if they didn't have children to feed. But you know, this is an outrage. And thank you for listening.
My name is Carl, C-A-R-L, Raymond, R-A-Y-M-O-N-D. I just want to say that realistically, our only defense with this monopolistic power company is the Public Service Commission. They argue on our behalf. Thank you for coming and listening to us. I also wanted to just make a point. There was some terms thrown around like income, earnings, revenue, profit. Revenue is what a company takes in before they satisfy their overhead costs, they pay their employees, they take care of everything. Earnings and profit and what has been at a record level for Montana Dakota Utilities for years. What we're talking about with these rate hikes is all profit for MDU, but all loss for the ratepayers. We cannot recoup that. I wish I could give myself a 19.2% raise, a 9% raise, whatever it's gonna be. I can't, and I doubt that anybody else here can as well. When we talk about inflation on, I always think that some people feel that it's just inevitable. Oh, it's going to inflate. What it really is the economy operates because people pull the strings. Different corporations demand this, they demand that, and then we have to supply that. It's not a God that we bow down to. This is just the way that it works. Inflation is essentially price gouging. If you cannot account for why you want to drive these prices up, again, it's all loss from us, all profits for the power companies. Big box places like Walmart, you know, they're able to weather the storm better than anybody in this room. Walmart has the benefit, and companies like them have the benefit of being large enough to be able to set regional prices so that we just don't boycott them. They've already run out small businesses. They become the only option for some people with, you know, maybe Albertsons and Reynolds in tow. It's 2 or 3. We're bringing to the Public Service Commission because this is a concern. And I know that you can't answer any questions right now, but please just take this information And we do thank you. Please keep us in mind.
Yes, sir.
My name is Rick Huber, Huber. I'm a resident of Minot City, using utilities. A landlord of one unit using utilities or in a contract for my renter to pay the utilities. I'd like to say that I'm very thankful for heat, air conditioning, electric to enjoy living as I do the best I can. That being said, I would like to state or say, converse, encourage. I would like for the MDU, the investors, the PSC, all persons involved in making decisions. That a little story. And when you make these decisions, so I'm also a council person of board too, just as Mr. Krenz is, that we share the board. We go through a lot of meetings and we hear a lot of things, and this is a great turnout, and I'd like to say this is impressive. We'll get more here than sometimes we have come to council meetings. But down this hallway on the left, when you come in on the right, is an office, and it's got a steel door there, and I'm sure there's documents and money in there, whatever, safe, but that's open during the day. And when I come in to get my packet for the city council or any other committee meetings, you kind of overhear what's going on. And you also see people coming in to pay their, because that's also that window, the water and sewer bill. And what's really humbling is to see when people are making, and I'm almost sure, partial payments. You know, sometimes you see them with a wallet or a purse. A lot of times it's some older people or some that haven't had good luck in life. And I think I'm pretty good at, well, I hate that word assume, but almost assuming that a lot of them are partial payments so that their water doesn't get shut off. Or they don't have to come in and pay more to get the water turned on. And the inconvenience, the comfortable also. And it kind of tears my heart apart. And I don't know what their whole story is. I don't go up and ask them. That'd be rough for me to do that. I don't like to hear hard stories either. But I'm just assuming, and I'm thinking I'm kind of on. That being said, I would encourage for all the people making the decisions to protect us in southeastern Montana. I guess the last phrases that I hear is do the right thing. Thank you.
I'd like to add, somebody here talked about cost of living. We looked it up today. Those of us who are on Social Security, disability, the cost of living will be reduced, not increased, reduced by about 5%. In January, we received, I believe it was 4.9. Could be wrong. Don't quote me on it. An increase. Woo! Yay! Guess how much our insurance increased? 14 point something. Who ate that? We did, out of pocket. We are in fixed income. We can't do it. Okay. 1 point some million for one turbine that's being built, 260 in Mount City. Guess how much it costs to maintain that per year? Upwards to $50,000, and that's just this year's estimate. To maintain them.
And nobody knows, you know what, they're full of oil.
Everything. I mean, this is alternative wind power, solar power, great, let's do it. But let's do it. It's called a parallel conversion. When I was in college, I would take systems analysis and design. And for small businesses, you want to go from this cash POS system to this POS system. They did it a parallel conversion so that people could continue to shop there. It wouldn't be hard to train, all this other stuff, all the stuff that they have to do. And this is just, just an example. parallel conversions, like the gentleman said. Why can't we do this? Why can't we do that at the same time and prepare like Washington did? Why can't we do that? Why this? Why the sudden and drastic change where we are not able to meet those demands? We are gonna suffer. Ravalli County, in Missoula County, in Hamilton, not in Missoula County, in Missoula County, in Missoula, Montana, and Hamilton and Ravalli County now have tent cities popping up because people are being forced out of their homes because they cannot afford the rent. And the average rent in Ravalli County is $1,500 a month. In Missoula, it's $2,000 a month. How can we afford this even at 9.2%? How can we afford it at 7%? This is wrong. This is wrong, wrong, wrong. Lower it. Please fight for us, please. And again, I heard that the Rosendale representative is here. You're a coward for not speaking up for who you are.
Who would like to go next? Yes, sir.
Question, when was the last time PSC done an audit on MDU? If they ever have done one.
Normally, we don't take question and answer, but normally we don't take question and answer because we want to give time for everybody to have their turn. But I can confirm that with every rate case, the commission does an audit of the company.
Well, I was told they was gonna do one 3 years ago and it never happened.
I can confirm that we had staff sent out to MDU for an audit. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Wait, before I have somebody go twice, I'd like to have everybody have a chance to go once, so, yes, please.
I'm Deb Schmeling. I'm from Miles City. I am the president of our senior citizens here. I work with about 40, at least 40 seniors every week, different ones. And I know our median income is under 20,000. So I would like for you guys to please consider a 0 rate increase because we cannot afford it. And I'm one just like them. Thank you. SCHMELING.
Who would like to go next? Yes, sir.
I'm sitting here listening to the same things that I heard 3 years ago. At that time, the question was asked, is this the last time you're gonna do a rate increase for 10 years at least? And here we are again, same thing. I asked MDU one way. Why are you not considering the elderly on fixed income? This rate increase you're proposing is gonna hurt them major. They told me, we don't care. You got all sorts of places you can go to for help to pay your bill. That's ridiculous. Yeah. So we don't care about them either.
Well, sir, can I get you to spell your name for the record?
SISKO.
Who would like to go next? Yes.
Hi, my name is Hannah Nash, HANNAH, last name Nash, NASH, and I live right here in Miles City, Montana. First off, I want to thank legal counsel, the commissioners on the phone, and you, Commissioner Pinochi, for being here today. I understand how difficult these meetings can be. I actually am finding it hard not to be too emotional myself, hearing what's happening to my neighbors, and so I really, I hope someone gives you a big hug later tonight. Okay? There's been a lot of talk today about, you know, what percentage of increase and what happens with this money. We are not against people making profits. We all need to make money. Small businesses need to make money. We need our communities to thrive, but thriving should not be at the expense of a corporate shareholder's pocketbook. Okay, we are not looking for excessive Cadillacs for our community. We are not looking for huge millionaire profits. What we are interested in is being able to live, thrive, and build with our families in a strong middle class in eastern Montana. Close to over half of this community is elderly and on a fixed income. So I think it's really important, again, that the Public Service Commission takes that into account when they're examining what MDU is asked for. And again, they deserve to make a little bit of money. But I do not believe that the amounts we are talking about is a little bit of money. I believe we are looking at way more profit than would be considered reasonable, again, according to the agreement and according to the existence of the PSC. So I would, again, encourage our commissioners, both on the line and here today, to please take into account the senior citizens, the people who couldn't even be here tonight and didn't have the technology or afford the technology to dial in tonight. I think it's really important that even though we're only one room full of people, that every person here is echoing the voice of hundreds of eastern Montanans who cannot afford this rate increase. Again, if they can show us that they can justify that they have stuff breaking down left and right, that truck's alternator doesn't work, they can't afford to provide us that power, okay, we'll listen, we'll talk. That's not what we're seeing here. We are seeing runaway corporate profits that are not reinvesting into these communities, these small businesses, and our native tribes here. So that's what I would ask you guys to really weigh in your hearts when someone hopefully gives you a hug after this difficult meeting, and thank you guys so much for your time.
Yes.
Who would like to go in? Well, I'll just make a short vote. Thank you.
Dave Wilson.
About 25 years ago, I suspect it was now. Mom Bell had a problem similar to this. You know your history, you know what happened. That's all I got to say.
Amen.
25 years ago. Does anybody?
Who would like to go next?
I'll remember it.
Anyone? Okay.
My name is Marjorie Albers, MARJORIEALBERS, and I live here in Miles City. And I just quick Google search, looked for MDU Resources Group for their investors. And they've said that they've increased dividends for their investors on 30 years. This is for 2020 report. But if they can increase dividends for every year, they can have 1 year where they don't increase dividends and take a load off our backs. So I think that's all I have to say.
It's back, it's not back, it's her neck.
Yep. Take that news right off.
Anyone else? Okay, sir. Looks like everybody's.
I'm Butch Grins again. I would like to give you a little example of what I feel where this has started from. And afterwards, I'll ask you where you think you're gonna go from here. How many of you people remember when it was a one income family?
Yeah.
What do you think changed in the 70s? Why you ended up with a 2 income family? What happened? Anybody have an idea?
Oh, I do.
I do.
Couldn't afford one.
I was working the.
Because they couldn't tax the other half of America, so they had the women's lib.
You're a little off. One thing, during World War II, before we got into the war, we were selling material to everybody in the world, just huge amounts of material. Back then, you didn't write a check, you paid in gold. And after we got into World War II, it even got worse. We really were selling a lot of material to Russia, to England, to wherever it was going out of this country. And then at that time, you've got to remember, the currency of the world was the British sterling. It wasn't the US dollar, it was the British sterling. But after World War II, we had garnered 80% of the world's gold. So what happens is we want our dollar to become the standard of the world. And so be it. We got it. Well, along came Kennedy and he wanted to go to the moon, so we were buying materials like crazy from other countries. Then after his assassination comes Lyndon Johnson. He decides to give all these high-rise equipment deals for lower income people. Then, well, long story short, these people wanted to get paid. And we spent more money, more gold than we had. So Nixon comes along and he says, well, their gold is $32 an ounce, let's make it $38 an ounce, and that'll alleviate a lot of things. Well, that still wasn't enough to make people not wanting their gold. So then here comes Reagan and he says, let's make the interest rate 22%. The right way, first you lost 6% of your dollar, 6 cents out of every dollar for the first inflation thing that came in. The second one came in, you lost another 22 cents. And so what happens is these countries, well, if you're going to pay that much more money in interest, we'll take the treasury notes because that's unheard of. And so that's when that happened. And then Dad's check no longer went farther enough in the store to pay the bills. So Mom had to go to work. Now, my question is, if that happened then, what now? You're gonna put your children to work?
Yep,
Yes.
I mean, that's the path we're headed down.
that's what they're doing in Africa.
Thank you.
That's right.
I mean, I know this is a little off the topic, but like in North Dakota, I lived over there and my internet was $80 a month, unlimited. And then when I moved back over here in 2018, and I found out that Montana voted to pay per gig. Well, my son used to live in Butte, and he paid $50 a month for unlimited. And then Mid Rivers, they charge 50 or 20 cents per gig and whatever. I don't go over 300 gigs, but like people that like her kids that are streaming constantly and stuff, or when homeschooling was happening because of COVID. I saw it all the time on Miles City Chat, on Glendive, Dawson, Discovery, and that people are like, the internet is crazy. I can't pay my internet, but I need to have my internet because my kids need to be online. I mean, I know that has nothing to do with this meeting, but people that can't pay their internet, can't pay their phone bills, can't pay their power bills, it's gonna be a big problem. And people are gonna end up going home, being homeless.
Are you talking about regulating?
Kind of, I mean, it needs to be where it's a simple rate and no more increases for power, electricity, internet, anything. I mean, I have a cell phone because I can't afford to have a house phone.
Thank you. Any other public comment, ma'am? Did you raise your hand?
I'm not big on public speaking, but I just wanted to say that if there was any way that possibly to get out of this mess, to have a little competition, because that way maybe MDU wouldn't be putting the ropes to our throats, because this is just not right. I mean, because either you can pay MDU or you don't eat. So what's your choice?
Could I get your spelling of your name, please?
Julene Johnson, JEWELLENE.
Are you from here?
I'm from Miles City.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other, oh, this guy.
I'm Elin again. I just wanted to add one more thing, which is, I don't know, I classify it as a type of phenomenon happening in this country. Adult children are moving back in with their parents because they can't afford to continue living on their own with the rising cost of everything. So, well, and vice versa. Elderly people are moving in with their adult children. This is part of this reality of all of us struggling to pay our bills. Adult children moving back in with their adult parents so they can save up their money, get back on their feet and maybe move out again. Or elderly parents moving in with their children because they can't afford the cost of living anymore. That's just all that I wanted to add. Thank you. And again, thank you for being here.
make sure they go to work. Is my
Mr.
daughter
Chairman.
listening? I'm gonna get something for that.
Mr.
Any
Chairman.
other public comment? Oh, Commissioner O'Donnell, I hear you.
Thank
Commissioner
you.
O'Donnell.
You know, I wanted to say that, yeah, when I started preparations for this meeting about 4 weeks ago, it was based upon conversations with Mary Catherine Dunphy, I believe is the name, and I really appreciated her reaching out to me to her comments and to indicate the public interest in having this meeting. I fully intended on being there in person, but I had knee surgery 2 weeks ago and have been out of the hospital a little over a week, and I'm just not ready for a long car ride at this point. But the remarks have been very well informed. I've learned a lot, and I really appreciate everybody who attended and who spoke. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Donnell, and thank you for that explanation. I'm sorry that you couldn't be here today, and I know you wanted me. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Mary Catherine Dunphy, and I would like to wish Commissioner O'Donnell speedy recovery. It's not easy going through that surgery, and all the best to you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Other than a big thank you for being here, sorry.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I think we have a public commenter online. So let's start with the first public commenter online.
Hello, can you hear me?
We hear you fine.
Okay, my name is Dina Hoff, DENAHOFF. I'm an irrigated farmer from Glendive, and I'm in the Buffalo Rapids Irrigation Project. My neighbors and I have invested in pivots and wheel lines that we really couldn't afford, but we feel compelled to be conserving water and also be preventing erosion. And we can't pass the cost of our increases for everything of what we grow or our livestock that we feed. I mean, we have no choice in the prices that we set. We don't set our own prices. So we're not making any more money by making these expensive investments. And increases are going to hurt my neighbors really badly. Right now, we can't afford the cost of the inputs for everything. I mean, we're not making profits on our farms and ranches. And this is going to hurt. I get 4 MDU bills, one for residential, one each for 2 pivots and one for a wheel line. So I have 4 MDU bills to pay every month. And it's painful enough. And an increase is going to make it worse. And I hear this from every single neighbor that I talk to. And the other concern I have is, why is the Consumer Council making these little deals with MDU and with Walmart? And why are they not consulting all of their residential people and the business people who are consuming this power and paying the actual rates? What is the Consumer Council actually doing for consumers? I'm really curious. So I ask you to please really consider the hardship that this is bringing to agriculture in this part of our state. Thank you so much for coming and putting this hearing on.
Thank you. The next commenter online, please, Melissa Holt. Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
I hear you fine. Go ahead. She needs to unmute. Yes.
Sorry.
Melissa. Okay.
Can you hear
looks
me
like-
now? Sorry.
Go ahead and start again. Thank you.
My name is Melissa Holt. I'm from Glendive, Montana. I'd like to thank you all for being here, and you especially, Commissioner Pinocci, for voting no on the interim request. We really feel like you are listening, and we would like you to continue to stand up for your constituents. Like most of Eastern Montana, Glendive is struggling. Some of the highest property taxes in this part of the state. Our schools are deteriorating. They have recently closed all of our public facilities in our schools to the public use. They're only being used for the school use to hopefully preserve the little life that they have left in them. I'm also on the board of our nonprofit GROW, which is our recycling center here in Glendive. And an increase in our electrical rates would make it very difficult to continue our operations, let alone the decrease it would cause in the donations that we get from our community. I'm not going to go over the rate increase and the hardships on residential. You've heard, you know. My one thought is the settlement of 9.1 is basically telling us that MDU was requesting more than double what they're saying now that they actually need. They're a monopoly company. We don't have any other choices here. This is the only place we can go to get our electricity. This increase is predatory, it's greedy, it's not coming back into our communities. Many people and businesses are already having a difficult time making ends meet with just the interim increase. Raising rates would be a detrimental blow to our community, our residents, our businesses, and our way of life here in Eastern Montana. So I urge you to continue to stand up for us, and thank you.
Is there any other public comment before we adjourn? Yes.
I have one more thing. What I see happening here is it's like Elon said, we're squishing this middle class out. We're either going to be in the poorhouse or we're going to be in the billionaires, which probably none of us will be. Right. But they want us to become dependent on the government for handouts. Yep. And that's exactly what's happening right now. And if we don't stand up, we're going to get squished. So that's all I have to say.
Maybe last but not least, Ann Kroger, live in Miles City here, and retired civilian servant. I tread water with my bills every month I can make it. But I just want to put a voice to support everybody and everything I heard all night long. And I think a lot of things are really well articulated, and I just want to add support to everything I've heard tonight.
Can I give the spelling of your name?
Kroeder.
Thank you.
Could you please also consider mill levies, hospital levies, school levies? When you consider this proposal, how much, like Prairie County alone, we have a new sewer levy that we have to pay. It's a jump from $51 to $65. We have a hospital levy that's
Not one dinner. Just about done.
So you get more people. Go ahead, make those callers.
I don't think she was speaking to us. She may have had her mic on.
No, I thought listed people.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I also wanted to add that Commissioner O'Donnell voted no on the interim, and just like you did, Commissioner Pinochi, we're very appreciative of voting standing up for these.
Any other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
When you go back to Helena, would you please try to convince the other three commissioners and of what that they should vote no or vote for a lesser rate, and tell them what you've heard here and try to educate them to the problems that we have and encourage them to come and talk to us sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I encourage all of you to get your public comment sent to the Public Service Commission in writing.
Okay.
And you can address it to each commissioner if you'd like. Good.
Is there a mass email that we get sent?
Yeah, I'm gonna read that, and I also sent something around. Public comment is so important. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
What about the comments we already sent in? Do we have to send them again?
No, but there's nothing wrong with sending it to each commissioner individually. And then following up with a phone call. Did you get it? Did you read it? What did it say? Active public is so important. I heard a young lady mention the internet. It is not regulated as a public utility by the Public Service Commission, but your legislature had a bill introduced to do just that. To start regulating the internet.
Commissioner Pamnochi, can you stay on task here? We are discussing the MDU rate case, not legislation. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that advice. I just want to point out the legislation does tell the Public Service Commission what to do.
That's right.
And that lost by 1 vote. Okay, so your involvement with the legislation and public comment is very important.
Very much.
Again, the legislation guides the Public Service Commission. So, any further public comments?
Thank you for even, thank you.
All right. See no further public comments. We are ready to adjourn this listening session. Commission will also continue to accept public comment in writing and by phone. To provide public comment, please call the commission at 1-800-646-6150 or email the commission at pschelp@mt.gov. Once again, that phone number is 1-800-646-6150 and the email address is pschelp@mt.gov. Thank you for your public comments. This listening session is now adjourned. Thank you. Take care.
Question.